I'm a farmer and a mother of the next generation of farmers. Founded in 1981, our family farm has grown to approximately 700 acres of organic vegetables. The third generation on this land, my sons and nephews, have chosen to make their careers farming food in the family business. We grow carrots and a variety of other root crops, as well as leafy greens and cooking veg. We are also a distributor, providing market access for a network of other local farms. Thank you for inviting us to participate in your study of this critically important issue. Canada's Food Guide recommends, as you've heard from Mr. Lemaire earlier, half our plate be from produce, hort crops, every meal. We can't overstate how important it is for Canada to have a thriving horticulture sector to provide this food. I'm a farmer. I need to make a living. I need affordable seed, affordable land, suitable water for irrigation when necessary, a return that allows me to pay employees a fair wage, and provide safe working conditions, and as predictable a climate as possible to accomplish all of this. We know that long-lasting GHGs will keep warming the planet even if we stop emitting today. We must adapt, and we must drastically reduce our emissions. As members of the Agriculture Committee, your duty includes doing everything you can to reduce emissions from the oil and gas industry and to stop the destruction of the wild areas and biodiversity that remove atmospheric CO2. The existing suite of BRMs are designed for broadacre crops and so do not work well for horticulture, and even less in the context of climate disruption. The costs of applying can exceed any potential return if agri-stability is triggered. The high value per acre, diversity, and perishability of our crops makes damage assessment so complex that it is extremely difficult to create formulas to assess weather and storm losses. Thus, any compensation available is low and may not be adequate to keep affected farms in production, particularly if claims are processed so slowly that the next revenue-generating crop is unduly delayed. We must invest in the on-farm infrastructure needed to adapt to our changing climate. Some specific examples are water treatment infrastructure for sustainable irrigation, photovoltaics integrated into shade structures, greenhouse design and technology that integrates photovoltaics and heat storage. We also need public plant breeding of locally adapted horticultural crop varieties made available to growers royalty-free. Class 1 and 2 farmland located near urban centres must be protected for our food sovereignty. Canada needs policy solutions to ensure this land is protected and reserved for farmers growing food. To ensure farmers can succeed under changing climate conditions, the NFU proposes that the AAFC establish a Canadian Farm Resilience Agency to provide farmers in horticulture and other sectors all across the country with trustworthy advice delivered by independent extension personnel who are not tied to agribusiness corporations, with public agronomists to provide practical advice and researchers to develop new methods. Farmers can increase their farm's resilience to climate change and reliably produce the food Canadians need. Spending just $1 or $2 per acre of Canadian farmland could result in the necessary adaptation and resilience. Savings in crop losses and BRM payments would greatly exceed the cost of extension services, so these important services for farmers can be had at no net cost. By promoting the resilience needed for Canadian horticulture farmers, we can expand their market share and keep a much higher proportion of the Canadian food dollar within our economy. We're here to address the climate impacts threatening the economic viability of our farms. We also face a rapid rise in costs of production, accompanied by downward pressure on the price we can command. The farmer's share of the consumer food dollar is small, so grocery store price increases disproportionately benefit the large retailers. Increasing ownership concentration in wholesale and food processing further depresses our returns. Falling returns are creating a structural deficit. The difference is being taken out of the land, farm workers' labor, and the farmer's income. Failure to address these issues means ever fewer Canadian hort farms, less of our food being grown in Canada, vulnerability to environmental, political, and economic conditions in the countries where our imported food comes from. Addressing these overarching issues is supported by Canada's food policy vision. which is all people in Canada are able to access a sufficient amount of safe, nutritious, and culturally diverse food.
Ms. Pfenning, I've given a few extra seconds. We're at time if you have any final quick thoughts, but very quick.
Thank you. One sentence.
Okay, thank you. We'll now...
A viable, resilient horticulture sector is a critical component of Canada's food system, and if we don't support it, we erode our sovereignty as a nation.